At 11:52 p.m., no one noticed the woman mopping the 37th floor. No one ever did. Her name was Louisa Benton, 43 years old, mother of one, wore the same worn-out sneakers every night, and carried her lunch in a reused grocery bag. Most days, she slept 4 hours, ate in silence, and counted tips from cleaning toilets in restaurants before clocking in to clean something fancier offices full of people who never saw her. But that night, something changed. Louisa worked in the glass tower downtown that housed Devsum Technologies, a multi-million-dollar software company. She didn't know what they did exactly, something with enterprise licensing and cloud solutions. Didn't matter. Her job was simple. Empty trash, clean glass, vacuum carpets. Don't touch anything that looked expensive. She liked it that way. Quiet. Predictable, until she reached office 3742, one of the executive suites. The lights were still on. Someone had left in a hurry. A mug of coffee sat half drunk. A cardigan slung over the chair. But what caught Louisa's eye was the laptop. Open. Screen glowing. An Outlook draft email stared back at her. She hesitated. Usually, she'd just shut the lid and keep moving. But something about this screen made her pause. The subject line read, Q4 Revenue Adjustments Confidential. She didn't read further. Just reached out, gently closed the laptop, and whispered to herself, not my business. She finished, cleaning the room, and moved on. But the next night, the same office, the same laptop, the same email, now with a signature at the bottom. If this gets out, we're both done. This has to stay buried. Louisa felt a chill run down her spine. She wasn't a corporate person. She didn't understand finance. But she understood secrets. And that line was a red flag. For a moment, she stood there in the middle of the room, mop in hand, frozen. Then she did something she'd never done before. She took a photo of the screen with her cracked old Samsung. Just one. Just in case. And that was the moment everything started to change. The next morning, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Were you in 3740 to last night? No name. No introduction. Her stomach dropped. She ignored it that evening. When she arrived at work, the security guard, who usually didn't say a word, asked her casually, Hey, Louisa. You work on 37, right? You see anything weird last night? Like someone coming in after hours? Her mouth went dry. She shook her head. No, just cleaned. Like always, the guard nodded slowly. Too slowly. Louisa knew something was wrong. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the words in her head. We're both done. Stay buried. What had she stumbled on? And more importantly, what was she supposed to do with it? She didn't want trouble, but trouble, it seemed, had already found her. Louisa hadn't meant to get involved. She cleaned bathrooms, not boardrooms. She wasn't some whistleblower. She was just tired of being invisible, of being ignored, of living paycheck to paycheck while rich people threw away salads that cost more than her rent. But something about that email wouldn't leave her. Alone.so the next night, she returned to Office 3742. The laptop was gone. So was the coffee mug, the sweater. The warmth.it was like someone had scrubbed the room clean of its owner, except for one thing. On the desk sat a post-it note, pale yellow, curling at the edge, written in sharp block letters. Do not touch anything on this desk. It wasn't there the night before. Louisa didn't touch anything. She cleaned around the desk in silence, heart pounding louder than the vacuum. Then she took out her phone and stared at the photo she'd taken. She hadn't looked at it yet. Not really. Now, standing in the middle of a dark glass office high above a sleeping city, she did. The message was short, cold. Dangerous. We inflated Q for revenues using unconfirmed licensing projections. Don't worry, internal audit won't. Ask. The board signs whatever's clean. If this gets out, we're both done. This has to stay buried below that. Initials and a title, CFO. Chief Financial Officer. She didn't know much about business, but she knew what fraud sounded like. The next morning, she couldn't focus. She forgot her son's field trip slip. Burned the toast. Missed the bus. Her second job cleaning a gym locker room. She stared at the wall for a full minute, mop in hand, just thinking, if I turn this in, what happens to me? She'd been fired before. For less. For looking through someone's drawer while trying to throw away a candy wrapper. If she reported this to the company, would they believe her? She didn't even work for Devsum. She was employed by a third-party contractor. No benefits. No HR.so. She tried to do the next best thing. She went to the front desk that evening, pretending to ask about a missing ID badge. The receptionist smiled too widely. What floor are you on again? I just clean, Louisa replied. The smile disappeared. Well, I'm not authorized to help. You'll have to speak to your supervisor. In other words, you don't matter here. That night, in the small back room of the public library, Louisa sat across from her old friend, Maribel, who worked the night shift shelving books. She showed her the photo. Maribel stared for a long time. Then she said just 3 words. You have to send it. To who? Maribel pulled out her phone and typed into Google, ProPublica, anonymous tips, secure upload. Louisa hesitated. You sure? She whispered. Maribel nodded. You don't have to be loud to be brave. You just have to act. So Louisa uploaded the photo. No name. No email. No trace. She clicked send and then nothing. Days passed, then weeks. At home, the fridge broke. Her son came home from school crying. The cafeteria ran out of lunch trays, and he had to eat from a paper towel. The food stamps card stopped working for technical reasons. She had nothing left but exhaustion. Hope flickered low until one night, as she was clocking out of the building, a man in a suit brushed past her. Phone to his ear. Angry, I don't care who leaked it. They're done. Do you hear me? Done. Louisa didn't turn. Didn't speak, but in her pocket, her old phone buzzed a news alert. Breaking. Devsum Technologies under federal investigation for fraudulent earnings report. She stared at the screen. Her knees shook, and somewhere, deep inside, a spark finally lit. The next morning, Louisa's face was everywhere. Not her photo. No one knew her name, but her actions had shaken a building. She wasn't even supposed to be in. Whistleblower exposes financial fraud at Devsum Technologies. Anonymous tip sparks federal inquiry into $40 million accounting scandal. She stood in line at the food bank, gripping a ticket number, scrolling news articles on her cracked phone. They all said the same thing. An internal email, captured and sent by an unknown source, triggered the inquiry. Some praised the act. Others speculated. One commentator even called the whistleblower a disgruntled former employee with a grudge. Louisa laughed under her breath. I wasn't even employed, she muttered. That night, she returned to the building. The security guard, the one who used to ignore her, now stood stiffly when she walked in. He didn't smile, didn't speak. When she got to floor 37, office 3742 was sealed. Yellow tape across the door. A paper from Internal Affairs pinned to the wall. She stared at it for a full minute. She had no proof it was her photo. That started this, but in her chest she knew. She had pulled the thread and the whole thing was unraveling. At T3:12 a.m. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. No caller ID. She almost let it ring. Then a voicemail. We know who you are. You should have kept mopping. Just 7 words. Her hands shook as she replayed it. She didn't sleep that night. Or the one after. She unplugged the microwave, covered the laptop camera, put duct tape over her peephole for 3 days. No one followed up. No police came. No one else called. But then her supervisor called. Louisa braced for it, but instead of yelling, he sounded polite. Hi, Miss Benton. We'd like to transfer you temporarily to a different client. Why? She asked. Just internal security reasons. Nothing to worry about. Did Devsam ask for this? A pause. It's not personal, but of course it was. Maribel said she should go to the press. They'll protect you, she promised, but Louisa didn't want fame. She wanted stability. So she refused interviews, declined emails from reporters, didn't open the envelope someone slipped under her door, the one with a check for $2,000 and a sticky note. Thanks for your silence. She ripped it in half, but the doubt had already settled in. Had she made her life better? Or just made it harder? She was still poor, still tired, still scrubbing sinks with borrowed gloves, the only difference. Now she was scared. Then, 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. She came home to a letter, real paper. No stamp. Hand-delivered. The envelope was blank. Inside, a single page, typed. Formal. Professional, Miss Benton. We have been made aware indirectly of your role in recent events. While your discretion has been admirable, your integrity has been unforgettable. We are looking for someone who understands risk, who sees detail, who knows how to keep things clean in every sense of the word. Please contact us. If you're open to new opportunities, see Davenport, Director, Internal Risk and Ethics Group. Below that, a phone number, a company logo she'd never heard of. She sat on the edge of her bed, reading the letter 5 times. No threats, no games, just a chance. Louisa stared at the letter for 2 hours before she picked up the phone, not because she was excited, because she was terrified. People like her didn't get offers, they got warnings. Cuts 2 hours. We're making some changes, kind of conversations. Never invitations, but something about the way the letter was written, careful, respectful, made her believe it might be real. At exactly 7:01 a.m., she dialed the number. It rang once, twice. Risk and Ethics Group. This is Carol Davenport. Her voice was calm, measured. Louisa cleared her throat. I got your letter. A pause. Then, Miss Benton, thank you for calling. No questions. No, how did you get this number? Just calm certainty, like they'd been waiting. Would you be willing to meet in person? Somewhere of your choosing. Public, quiet. Louisa blinked. You're not in an office. We are. But we don't ask people to come to us. Not in situations like yours, situations like mine. That stuck in her head. They met at a small cafe by the bus station. Louisa wore her best blouse, the one with a missing button under the collar. She borrowed her sister's handbag and wiped her shoes clean until the leather cracked. Carol Davenport arrived in a gray coat, with no makeup, no briefcase, and eyes that looked like they'd seen more than they said. She didn't order anything. Just sat down and said, I read the email. And I believe you saved a lot of people from worse things. Louisa said nothing. We work in compliance, not the corporate kind. Real-world risk. Ethics violations. Internal leaks. Cover-ups. Most of what we do is invisible. Just like you were, I imagine. Still, Louisa stayed quiet. Then Carol said something she didn't expect. We don't need you to be a lawyer. Or a tech expert. We need someone who pays attention. Someone who notices the cup that wasn't there yesterday, the draft email no one saved, the tension in a hallway no one else walks through. That. Louisa understood. Carol continued. You'd start part-time. Flexible hours. We'd train. You'd observe. Record patterns. Notice what others don't. And if you ever wanted full-time, well, that's on the table too. Then she reached into her coat pocket and slid over an envelope. It's not charity. It's a job offer. Louisa opened it later on the bus. Inside, a contract. A welcome packet and a number she hadn't seen in a long time. 3,600 per month. Plus benefits. She didn't cry. Not on the bus. But when she got home and opened the fridge and saw the same 3 things she always saw, baking soda, mustard, and a half-empty milk jug, she leaned against the door and sobbed, not from sadness, from the realization that someone had seen her. Finally, that Monday, she didn't go clean office 37 for 2. She went somewhere else, new badge. New job, same woman, still quiet. Still watching, but now she had a seat at the table, even if it was in the back of the room, because she knew. The invisible woman saw everything. 6 months later, Louisa sat in a glass conference room, the kind she used to clean, not enter. She didn't speak much in meetings. Didn't wear fancy clothes or use buzzwords, but when people talked, she listened differently. She saw what no one else was looking at, a folder left open, a voice raised half a pitch to high, a glance exchanged, when no one thought to notice and when something didn't feel right. She didn't hesitate anymore. Her official title was Observation and Reporting Analyst, but Carol called her the one who catches what the smart people miss. Louisa didn't need praise. She needed peace. And now she had a oddity home. Things changed slowly. Not dramatically. She didn't move to a mansion. She didn't buy a new car, but the lights stayed on. The fridge was full. Her son started wearing shoes that fit, and his hoodie didn't have someone else's name stitched inside. They even went out to eat once a month, nothing fancy, just burgers and fries, but without checking the price of every item first. And once, when the waitress brought the check, her son looked at her and whispered, "You look happy now, Mom." I like that. That meant more than any promotion. Sometimes Louisa walked past her old building on the way home. The same revolving doors. Same polished glass. Same lobby where no one made eye contact, but she walked past now, not into it. Devsum had replaced their signage with something rebranded and forgettable. The company survived the scandal barely. The CFO resigned for personal reasons. Several execs disappeared from LinkedIn without a trace. The story made headlines for a week. Then the world moved on, but she didn't. She remembered what it felt like to stand in that office with a mop in her hand and power in her pocket. Not the loud kind, not the CEO kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need applause, the kind that just knows the truth and chooses to act. She never told anyone it was her, not her son, not her landlord, not even Maribel. She didn't need recognition. She needed something else. A life where she mattered. And one morning, as she rode the elevator up to her new floor, a woman stepped in behind her cleaning cart. Gloves, same blue uniform she used to wear. The woman looked tired. Avoided eye contact. Just like Louisa used to. Louisa turned to her gently and asked, "You doing okay tonight?" The woman blinked, surprised. Yeah. Just tired. Louisa smiled. I get that, as the elevator dinged. She held the door for her, and just before she stepped out, she said softly, if you ever see something that doesn't sit right, trust yourself. You'd be surprised what one person can do. Sometimes the people who clean up after others are the ones who change everything silently, completely, forever.